Hello. So my name is Kat, and for my personality project, I decided to do it on Carl Jung. His beginning. Jung led a difficult and an unhappy childhood, which was marked by deaths and funerals. He had neurotic parents who were in a very bad and failing marriage, religious doubts and conflicts, bizarre dreams and visions. He was born in Switzerland into a family that included 9 clergymen, all the men in his family, basically. So assumed he would go into that, which he didn't. Jung was introduced to religion at an early age by his father, who he was really close to, but he considered his father to be weak and powerless. Because although his father was kind and tolerant, um, his father experienced periods of moodiness and irritability, and he wasn't the strong father figure that his son needed him to be. So his mother is thought to be one of the reasons why he went into psychology field in general. His mother was the lead parent, but she was emotionally unstable, and that led to her to behave erratically. And she had a habit of changing in an instant from being happy to being incoherent and gazing vacantly into space. So as a child, Jung saw his mother as two different people within the same person, and that disturbed him, rightly so. Inside his mind. So his dreams and fantasies, the reason behind those. Distrustful of his mother, and he was disappointed in his father, Jung felt cut off from the external world, which is the world of conscious reality. His escape, because you're going to need one growing up with all that going on, was turning inward to his unconscious, to the world of dreams, visions, and fantasies, where he felt more secure. This was a choice for him that would guide him for basically the rest of his life, and the reason why he went into psychology. Because whenever faced with a problem, he would look for a solution through his dreams and visions. The essence of his personality theory was shaped in essentially the same way. When he was 3, he dreamed of being in a cavern, and in a later dream, he saw himself digging down beneath the Earth's surface, unearthing the bones of animals. To Jung, such dreams were the represented the direction of his approach to the human personality, and they directed him to explore the unconscious mind, which he thought lies beneath the surface of behavior. So he placed a lot of importance on the unconscious. His loneliness is also reflected in this theory, because it focuses more on inner growth of a person rather than on the relationships one might have had with other people. And for college, he studied medicine at the University of Basel and decided to specialize in psychiatry. And he worked at a mental hospital in Zurich under the direction of Eugene Bleuler, a psychiatrist who coined the term schizophrenia. So, men versus women. How did Jung view women? So, he didn't view women as the lesser sex in any way. He called them the second sex, but if anything, he insisted that there was vital importance in the idea of being feminine. And according to him, both men and women are, in terms of the whole psyche, which is the conscious and unconscious part, androgynous. So a woman has an unconscious masculine side of her psyche, and a man has an unconscious feminine side. So men and women are basically equal. And the masculine-feminine polarity is then part of the general picture. He also thought that men and women related to the world in different ways. And for all human beings, meaning men and women together, there is potential for growth and development toward a process which he calls individualization, which is the process of becoming whole through the integration of all the different aspects of one's being. So individualization is a development of one's unique individuality and a task of self-realization. And self-realization, it has a special meaning in Jung's philosophy, which is like for the versions of what he means by self is not automatic. So it's a simultaneous with individuation. It consists of a transformation whereby one's self-identifying shifts from the ego, which is completely on the conscious side, to a new century which has both the conscious and the unconscious. So the self is a wider category than the ego, and includes the ego as well as the unconscious. The self is the total psyche, pretty much. And I really hope that's not as confusing as the way it sounds. So religion. How did Jung view religion? So he thought that there was a religious instinct in all human beings, and an inherent striving towards a relationship with someone or something that transcends human power. His conviction about the universal, of religion led him to view religion as a manifestation of the collective unconscious. Both religious practice and religious experience found their source in the collective unconscious. Religious experience was numinous, which means it had direct contact with the divine, which revealed itself through dreams and visions. Religious practice, rituals, and dogmas were necessary to protect people from the awesome power of such a direct experience of the numinous. So Jung had something to say about the irrationality of religion, too. Modern people had a near-religious faith in the power of rational thinking and technology, and it was a mistake to dismiss religious phenomena because of their irrationality. Yet, the process of individuation was central to Jung's psychology, and this takes place it was thought to take place in the second half of life, but it was not for everybody. In the first half of life, an individual attempts to establish themselves in society with a job, house, and family, which is the period of the ego. But when the individual has shown their power and, mates, find someone to be with, perhaps the death of the ego is the turning point in life. So the ego relinquishes the seat of power and the second half of life begins. That's what he means by individuation. Okay. So, developing a personality. Jung thought that there were 8 different psychological types. Extroverted thinking types tended to repress their feelings and emotions. They were objective in all aspects of life, dogmatic in thoughts and opinions. Extroverted feeling types tend to repress thinking mode and be highly emotional. They conform to traditional values and moral codes they've been taught. They're also very sensitive to opinions and expectations of others, and emotionally responsive. They make friends easily, and they tend to be sociable. Extroverted sensing types focus on pleasure and happiness and seek new experiences. They are oriented toward the real world and adaptable to different kinds of people and changing situations, and they also tend to be outgoing. Extroverted intuiting types find success in business and politics thanks to their keen ability to exploit opportunities. Attracted to new ideas, they tend to be creative, inspire others to accomplish and achieve, and they make decisions based more on hunches than on their reflection. Introverted thinking types, they don't get along well with other people and tend to have difficulty communicating ideas. Focusing on thoughts rather than feelings and having poor practical judgment, they are very concerned with privacy and they prefer to deal with abstractions and theories, focusing on understanding themselves rather than other people. They may come off as stubborn, aloof, arrogant, or even inconsiderate sometimes, even though they're not meaning to. Introverted feeling types repress rational thoughts. They are capable of deep emotion but avoid any outward expression of it. They seem mysterious and inaccessible, tend to be quiet, modest, and childish, and they have little consideration for others' feelings and thoughts, and they can appear withdrawn, cold, and self-assured. Introverted sensing types, they can appear passive, calm, and detached from the world. They look on most human activities with amusement. Aesthetically sensitive, they are taken to expressing themselves through art or music, and they tend to repress intuition. Introverted intuiting types focus on intuition so intently that they have little contact with reality. Visionaries and dreamers, they are aloof but are not concerned with practical matters. Poorly understood by others, they are seen as odd and eccentric, and they have difficulty coping with everyday life and planning for the future. So one thing that Jung is actually famous for is the 16 personality test, which is based on his theory, and I put all the different personality types up there in the picture. But if you'd like to take it, take the test yourself to see which one you are. I have the link down there below, so you can copy or type it in and paste it and take it. The test is free, and it's, I think, one of the best personality tests. Jung's theory. Alright, so, psych. He regarded the psyche as made up of a number of separate but interacting systems. The three main systems were the ego, the personal unconscious, and the collective unconscious. According to Jung, the ego represents the conscious mind as it comprises the thoughts, memories, and emotions a person is aware of. The ego is largely responsible for feelings of identity and continuity. The first layer, called the personal unconscious, is essentially the same as Freud's version of the unconscious. The personal unconscious contains temporarily forgotten information as well as repressed memories. Jung outlined an important feature of the personal unconscious called complexes. A complex is a collection of thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and memories that focus on a single concept. The more elements that are attached to a complex, the greater its influence on the individual. Jung also believed that the personal unconscious was much nearer to the surface than Freud suggested, and Jungian therapy is less concerned with repressed childhood experiences. It's the present and the future which is the key to both the analysis of neurosis and its treatment. However, by far the most important difference between Jung and Freud is the collective unconscious, or transpersonal unconscious. This is his most original and controversial contribution to personality theory. This is a level of unconscious shared with other members of the human species comprising latent memories from our ancestral and evolutionary past. So basically, Jung placed a lot of importance on ancestry, and basically, according to Jung, the human mind has innate characteristics imprinted on it as a result of evolution. These universal predispositions come from our ancestral past. So fear of the dark or of snakes or spiders could be examples of it, and it's interesting that this idea has recently been revived in the theory of prepared conditioning. So he placed a lot of importance on the unconscious mind and how we're connected to people from the past, basically, how we learn. Archetypes. Alright, so archetypes are images and thoughts which have universal meanings across cultures, which may show up in dreams, literature, art, or religion. Jung believes symbols from different cultures are often very similar because they have emerged from archetypes shared by the whole human race. So for Jung, our primitive past becomes the basis of the human psyche, directing and influencing present behavior. He claimed to identify a large number of archetypes, but paid special attention to form, which I'm going to tell you about. The persona is the outward face we present to the world. It conceals our real self, and Jung described it as the conformity archetype, because it's the public face or the role a person presents to others as someone different to who we really are. So kind of like an actor. Another archetype is the anima/animus. It's basically the mirror image of our biological sex, and that is the unconscious feminine side in males and the masculine tendencies in women, as I talked about earlier. Each sex manifests attitudes and behaviors of the other by virtue of centuries of living together. The psyche of a woman contains masculine aspects, which is the animus archetype, and the psyche of a man contains feminine aspects, so that's the anima archetype. Next is the shadow. This is the animal side of our personality, which is like the id in Freud. It is the source of both our creative and destructive energies. In line with evolutionary theory, it may be that Jung's archetypes reflect predispositions that once had survival value. And finally, last but not least, there is the self, which provides a sense of unity and experience. For Jung, the ultimate aim of every individual is to achieve a state of selfhood, similar to self-actualization, and is moving in the direction of a more humanist orientation, like Erikson. Alright, how important is infancy? While Jung agreed with Freud that a person's past and childhood experiences determine future behavior, He also believed that we are shaped by our future. So the ego begins to develop in childhood, and children are highly influenced by their parents' personalities because what else do they have to go off of? And have a lot of influence on the formation of their personality. They can enhance or impede personality development by how they behave toward their child. So basically, infancy is kind of a big deal in developing a personality because it's like the blueprint and like the nuts and bolts of how you end up, who you end up becoming when you grow up. And that's basically on your parents because they're the ones who are taking care of you and you're completely dependent on them. And can a personality change? Carl Jung believed that everyone has one true personality type, and while you can change particular behaviors and control your emotions, you can never actually change the true type of your personality. Many believe that by the time you are around 30, your true type personality is set. And even if you change behaviors and control your emotions in an effort to respond differently to people, the root of your feelings and behaviors remains unchanged. So the roots are still that of your true type. So can a personality change? Not completely, not in its entirety. You may be able to change little aspects of your personality, which is fine, but your true type personality, like the person you are inside, the unconscious side of you, is not going to change. Alright. What makes his ideas interesting or novel? He focused on how much power the unconscious mind has. He was one of the first to actually put importance there. And he made sense of the unconscious and revealed its meaning through symbolism. He also founded analytical psychology, which is what he's known for, and he advanced the idea of introvert and extrovert personalities, which before him, introverts and extroverts, there was no difference. There was no separate qualities for each of them. He also founded archetypes and the power of the unconscious, and he's published numerous works during his lifetime, and his ideas have lived on because they've been brought up in the field of psychiatry, and they've been in art and religion and literature, so he's everywhere. But he's a very intriguing guy, and his ideas, they make sense. They go like on the deeper level than some other personality theorists because he's so involved in the unconscious and why we are the way we are and all that. What would Freud say about me? Well, I actually have taken the 16 personality Myers-Briggs test, and I'm an ENFP, so I'm very extroverted, I'm intuitive, and I think that's kind of spot on. So I think he would say that I'm extroverted. He would, I don't know what he would exactly say about me other than I'm extroverted, and I definitely agree with him that there are things that happen when you're growing up that shape who you are and how you will react to things in the future. Because I'm currently dealing with this, and I bet other people are currently dealing with this. So, yeah. So, Carl Jung versus Freud. I know, big surprise that I went with Freud. So, some of their differences are they argued over the libido, the unconscious, nature of the unconscious, and causes of behavior. So, libido, Jung thought libido was a generalized source of psychic energy motivating arranged behaviors, and Freud thought it was a psychic energy specific to sexual gratification. Jung did not like the idea that libido was part of sexual gratification because he didn't see how someone could have that kind of like relationship with like a parent or like the Oedipus complex type of thing that Freud was all about. He didn't see that because growing up, his parents were not the best people. So he had very different experiences, and he was not down for the whole sexual gratification nature of the libido. For the nature of the unconscious, Jung thought that it was the storehouse of repressed memories that were specific to the individual and our ancestral past, while Freud thought it was a storehouse for unacceptable repressed desires specific to the individual. So basically, Freud just thought the unconscious was just bad and unacceptable, and Jung openly looked and studied and said that it was like the basis of why we felt the way we felt about things, why we acted the way we did. And causes of behavior. Jung felt that past experiences, in addition to future aspiration, were the cause of behavior, and Freud thought that past experiences, particularly in childhood. So not too much of a difference there, but I mean, still. They agreed with each other to a point, and then Carl Jung kind of went above and beyond with what he already had taken from Freud and made it into analytical psychology. So there's similarities. They are similar in so many ways that I'm going to state just a couple. So the psych, they both regarded the psych as it was made up of a number of separate but interacting systems, and they emphasized the importance of the unconscious in relation to personality. Jung more than Freud, but Jung and Freud kind of learned from each other. Like, they met for the first time in person, and they talked for 13 hours because they had that much information to go over together. So, yeah. Why Carl Jung? Why would I pick him? Well, first of all, like I said, I already took the 16 personality test. I actually took that years ago. It was one of the first personality tests I've ever actually taken, and it was great because it was very in-depth. And I like the fact that it was in-depth and not like it gave you like your top 5 traits or whatever. No, it gives you like how you are in relationships. It'll say how you are in friendships. It'll say how you are in the workplace. It'll say what kind of parent you're probably going to be. Like, it actually gives an in-depth idea of how you were in your childhood based on your answers to these questions, which are really in-depth questions. So I like the fact that it's in-depth. I like the fact that it's very straightforward, and I don't know. I think it's correct. I mean, I'm not going to say one test is more correct than another, but in my personal opinion, I like this one the best. And Carl Jung is one of the guys that made this happen, and just the fact that he focuses on the unconscious, I'm a big believer that the things that happen in your past lead to how you act in the future, as I think I said earlier. And yeah, so I think the unconscious plays a large part, and I would love to be able to access my unconscious more than I think humans are currently able to. But that's just me. So these are my references, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. And thank you for watching and listening.